Welcome to episode 17 of the Business of Real Estate podcast with Lynn, Hoffman, and Eric Johnson. Today we are talking all about coaching. What should you look for in a coach? What should you expect from a coach? And do you really need a coach? We'll answer all of that today on the Business of Real Estate podcast.
Okay, everybody. I'm very pleased to have with us today Marianne Gillespie. She's CEO of Red Apple Coaching. She's also a top recruiter, a top coach, and I call her the secret weapon of accountability. She was also 2023 Ironman world champion. So she walks the talk. Marianne coached me for a couple of years. I know what accountability looks like, so buckle up. Yeah. You're in for a good time. But I'd also like to say she's a good friend and been a great support for me over the last few years.
What a great
welcome
intro.
here.
Thank you for having me, guys.
You're welcome.
Excited.
Well, listen, we all know that, all of us do coaching here, but, do the agents really need coaching? Really? Aren't they smart enough to do this on their own? What do you guys think?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Of course they're smart enough to do it.
Big yes, right, Marianne? Like,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah, sure, absolutely,
Well, yeah,
absolutely.
no.
Just yes. Next question.
Yeah, absolutely. They can do it on their own until they can't. No, I mean, honestly, that's great. Is coaching, do they really need it? Not everybody does need it, to be very honest with you. I think it depends if you want to get there faster, if you want to do it with less mistakes, less errors, and if you really don't like to work all by yourself. I mean, the accountability is amazing. I think if you look at a history of top performers in any industry or even athletics or anything like that, the people who want to get there faster, top performers, they have a very big growth mindset. And not everybody has a growth mindset, so therefore not everybody will benefit from coaching. So it really depends on their journey. And so, to believe it or not, to answer the question, not everybody needs a coach. However, the ones who do will get there faster, and generally those are the ones at the top.
I would like to say that everybody does need a coach. I honestly believe everybody does need a coach. It's very important because coaches can make you feel uncomfortable in a great way. Until you get out of your comfort zone and, in your happy jammies in the morning, and somebody to be accountable for, there's no growth. And without that, it just doesn't seem to work well. So I do believe you both are in a very needed profession.
Oh, I can see that for sure. I think even to add to that, just listening to some of the things that David was saying, is that, when I was on my path to become an Ironman athlete, the first thing I did in that journey is I hired 5 coaches. Right. So I was like, you don't even need just one coach sometimes. Sometimes you really need a lot of coaches. And so I hired 5 coaches, and there is no way I would have become the athlete and a world championship athlete with Ironman if I didn't have those coaches. Like, it's not possible. So, and you can really see that difference. So even just one coach versus 5 coaches, sometimes it's necessary.
I remember one of my sales trainers talked about, you want to try and pretend like you're the fly in the corner of the room watching things from the outside. And, that's something that a coach does. Because when you're in the middle of it, you can't see things. I used to use the example of, imagine you're on the Golden Gate Bridge and you're walking down it, and what you see is those big poles and the cables that are in front of you. You see the cars coming towards you and the people that are walking towards you. But what the coach is the person on the shoreline. And they see the entire bridge, and they see what's coming behind you, what's coming up front, and they see the entire picture that you don't see because you're in the middle of it. And so I think that's a great way to look at having that coach, is to see the things you don't see because you're in the middle of it. And I think, you see the newbies that when they come into the business, they don't know what they're doing. So definitely they need that coaching, right? And then you have the more experienced agents who get to that point where they come in and they grind. And, the ones who haven't used coaching, and they get in, they grind, they hustle, they do well, and they get to a certain point, and then they plateau, right? And then they stop. And so there's a couple of different groups there, and then you have the ones that really, they're scaling, but at the same time, they don't know how to scale even bigger. So with those 3 groups in mind, I'm going to ask the 2 of you, what would your advice be to a brand new agent getting into the business, no real sales experience?
Brand new agents. Well, I use my own example. So my first year in the business, I would say right before I got licensed, I looked for the best person in the business. And I said, you know what, who's number one? And so I went and I said pre-licensing. And I said, you know what? I said, why are you successful? How are you number one? And he says, you know what? I have a real estate coach. And I said, okay. I said, I don't have my license yet. So I took a position on that team. And his coach, unbeknownst to me at the time, was quite a famous coach at the time called Howard Brinton. And so I said, all I want in my contract is I just want to sit and I want to listen to what this guy has to say. And I remember it was like candy. And I was just sitting in every coaching call just going, what is this magical formula that he's telling this guy, and he's listening and he's doing it, and all he's doing is listening to the coach, taking it all in, and then putting it in place, and he's so successful. And then I went to the conference on license, and I was like, it was Star Power at the time, and I was like, this is incredible. And I remember pre-license going, this is the golden ticket. This is it. And then I decided, I said I had very little money when I started my career. And I said, you know what? I had to make a very wise decision. And I said, you know what? I'm doing it. And I hired a coach right out of the gate, and I never looked back. And my first year I did 80 deals. And I was like, you know what? Best thing I ever did. So as a newbie at the time, you know, I would say it was the smartest idea I ever did. I was exposed to coaching very early, but it was like, that was like the most incredible thing. So then I sat back and I said, man, like it was just the best idea. So I would say like as a newbie, I think every level needs a coach, but I think the biggest gap that I see is new agents not investing in it. Yeah. And I would say that's the smartest thing. If you have very little money, don't put it in Facebook ads and things like that. Let's get into it. Let's get a coach, or have an office that has a professional coaching service such as yours, right? So to me, that's really good, because how many times I hear people say, Eric, I hear your name all the time. So I think that's, you know, I know the return is there for the agents. So new, I would say is the biggest and best, smartest investment you can do in this industry.
And the other thing that I tell people right off the bat, they'll put an ad, I think you said it, Marianne, a Facebook ad or Facebook search, things like that.
Yep.
But they should be investing in themselves. If they invest in themselves, that's the biggest return they'll ever get. So that means talking to coaches and specialists and honing the sales skills and the business skills that they need. So
100%.
Great responses.
I'm going to pull a Lynn, because Lynn usually goes, I wrote this down while
I
you were talking. And the two of you both use the word business. And I think that's what gets a lot of people. They don't understand this is a business. You will become a business owner, right? And so when
100%.
They get in and they go, oh man, I have a job as a realtor. No, you don't. You have a business, and they're business systems. And if you've never run a business, and the people that come in, because Lynn and I, in the recruiting aspect, we're meeting these people who go, have you done sales? Yes. You know, I was a clerk at this store, or I've done, this type of thing. No, you haven't done sales. You don't know business. And so that's why you need a coach. To me, that's why a new agent really needs somebody to help them learn how to run a business.
It's a people business. It's all about interacting with people, and a bit old school. Yeah.
But I have a challenge for all of you guys, though. So we can say that it was a business, okay? So we can say, you know what? You get into real estate, and it's a business. This is a business. But let's be fair. I would say there's a large portion that, to be a business owner, to run things like a business is not everybody's cup of tea. And I would say there is a substantially large amount of people that come into coaching and they don't really care if it's a business or not. They want the revenue, and that's it. Yep. And they're like, and so I think there's a space personally where you're looking and you're saying, what about that group of people who are like, okay, I understand you want to run a business and I get that, but I actually just want to sell, and I just want to sell, and I really don't care that it's a business or not, and I don't really want to join a team maybe or not, but I just want to make a ton of money, and I'm really not that concerned about it being a business. There is a lot of that in the industry, a ton of that in the industry. So, I think also there is that environment where do you coach people that come to you, and David can answer this, you guys can answer this. What do you do with that agent that says, not really interested in operating a business, I'm in it for the money? And that is it. And I like the money that real estate pays. I like the sales aspect of it, but I have no desire to run it as a business. Because I think there's a lot of people like that.
One of our other guests said to me and to Eric, if they come for the money, they leave sort of because of the money.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And that's an interesting statement,
Yeah.
because a lot of people want all those riches and want all that, and they may get a little bit toward that, but if they don't have the infrastructure, if they don't have the plan, if they don't have the coaching, it will leave faster than they can even imagine.
Yep.
So just to tell David and our viewers, Marianne, I asked Marianne I can't believe I did this, I asked to be accountable, and I hired Marianne as my coach to help
That
me
was
with
fun.
to help me with recruiting, and
so fun.
to help me, as
I mean,
as
you
a
did
broker.
finish number 1, but
I did finish number 1, and to that point as well, we also, we're number 2 in net gain
Yeah.
growth for RE/MAX and so forth. But I literally doubled the number of recruits I did in 1 year, as well as
Yeah.
doing my regular job
Oh.
within the company and so forth. But I couldn't have done it without a coach, and I couldn't have done it without Marianne. She was extremely patient with me, but she pulled all those things, just like you said, David, she just pulled all those things together for me. So it really does work. I was bringing in about 18 to 22 people a year for the brokerage, and recruiting is something that's so important to any business. It's like sales for an agent. But when Marianne finished with me that year, I did about 56. I think I was at 56
so
or
good.
58. It was
I feel like screaming. I'm like, yeah.
It was like a crazy ride. And now the goal is I have to keep that mark up or do better. But
Yeah.
yeah, and if I can do that, anybody can do that. My broker of record, Con Mazzarini, was not pushing me. He was not pressuring me. I wanted a coach because I felt that I could do better. And
you did.
And I did do better.
And you did.
And I think everybody's that same way. So you have to invest in yourself as an agent to do better.
You always look at, like, I always talk about this, and I was doing a session this morning for a brokerage, and I was talking about this, and when I go speaking, I talk about this all the time. I say, you have one life. And in my life, I've experienced just way too much death and loss. And I look at that, and what that taught me at a very young age. At a very young age, it taught me I was living on my own. I was homeless. It was just a teenager. And I had no authority figure telling me that there was a ceiling, that I could or could not do anything. Mm-hmm. And so what I learned equally at the same time is I learned that, first of all, life is short. I learned that very young, that every day is a gift. But then I also learned that if you have no ceiling above you and nobody is telling you that you can or cannot do something, then you can do really remarkable things regardless of your circumstances. Yep. So I think, my rush, and sort of a theme I hear with David, with Eric, with Lynn, with everybody that is at this table is also that, wherever you are, you can do anything. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing is you don't have to be a mega superstar. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to be number 1. And that's the thing that I think is always often missed too in coaching, is that we seem to think that if you want to be a top performer, you have to also have a coach. And it's like, no, you have one life. And if you want to really see what you're capable of, you get one trip around, and that's it. And you know what? Why not have somebody that's pulling the best of the best of the best out of you and say, like, let's see what you got in this world. Like, let's see every potential that you've got. You don't have to be number 1. You don't have to make millions of dollars. But man, like, what a journey this could be. And to have somebody believe in you so much and pull out the best of you, and let's see what you can become so you have no regrets when this is over.
Maximize your potential.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Maximize your potential. So, what was interesting when Lynn was talking there, and because I already wanted to go here with you, but she used the key word. Because the key thing that I hear about you all the time is, Marianne, like, and she said your superpower is accountability.
Very much so.
Right? And I think that's, David was talking about, you can have all the knowledge.
100%.
You can get all of it. We know what to do.
Yep.
Most of the experienced agents know what they should do.
100%.
But they don't. And so when you're sitting there and you're going, man, I know I should make these calls.
Yeah.
I know I should do this. I know I should do that. But you don't. And I say to everybody all the time, I said, number 1, if you don't have a schedule, if you don't schedule it out, you're at the mercy of your emotions and your energy. I say that all the time. And when my energy is low, and I'm just not there, I need somebody to give me that kick in the ass.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit, because that's your superpower.
It is.
Let's talk about accountability and how important is that for somebody to have somebody external. Because like I go to the gym every day pretty much, but there's some people that won't go unless they have a trainer waiting for them, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have to, accountability is my superpower, and there's no doubt that is. But it's also, it's called the velvet hammer. So I'm the velvet hammer. And so it's like,
I like that.
Yeah, it's the velvet hammer. That's, that's what I'm known for.
I think she left the velvet.
Yeah, sometimes I take the velvet like right off, and I'm like, just take the friggin' hammer. I mean, I will say I did show up like and shock the living pants off of a lot of clients stay at their offices, and I'm like texting them, where the F are you? And I'm taking pictures at their desks, and I'm like, come on, like, where are you? I've been known to show up at restaurants when my coaching clients should be lead generating, and their assistants tell me where they're eating, and I'll show up there and be like, what's going on? So I have I am on it like nothing. I look at, accountability is that, it's that thing that says, look, you know what, we got to break through habits, barriers, everything. But what I do the best is I take, I think because of my history of what I've accomplished and how I've pushed myself through everything, there is no excuse that I buy into. Yeah. So it's like if you hire a coach and you say to the coach, and this is a true value that I believe in coaching, is that you can have many variants of coaches. Nobody at this table has what I'm about to say. Those coaches that you hire, and they're not doing it to see you get to the finish line. Like, they're not willing to lose you as a client and say, look, you hired me to take you here, and you're not doing the work, and I'm holding you accountable, so you're fired, you're gone, you're out. And you have to, as a coach, be willing to say, if we are on this journey together, like if Lynn said, hey, I want to get to this location, like I took what Lynn said incredibly serious. And I was like, she had a journey, she had a destination, and she had a value behind why she wanted to get there. And when I connected with that as a coach, I was like, okay, we understand, it's going to be tough. There's going to be times that, it's going to be very tough, and we're going to have a conversation. There's times we're going to high five each other. But at the end of the day, if you're not committed to getting there, the relationship is done. Mm-hmm. It's done. And we have to be honest about that, to say, like, it won't get there. I'll smell it, she'll smell it, and it's done. I just don't want to take a check for something that, that I'm not willing. I'll go, coach somebody else. And I think that's where accountability becomes real with a coach, is lots of coaches will say they'll hold you accountable, but you've got to be able to say, I'm willing to walk away. Because if you truly don't want this, why would I want it more than you? Why would I want that more than you? If we're on this journey, you're doing it. And that whole idea of saying, there's no excuse that's going to fly, I'm on you all the time, I will push to the point where you will either quit because you are not committed to that goal, or we are getting to that goal and we are going to have a great journey. So one way or another.
I think something you just said there, people give themselves permission to fail. They talk themselves out of what they can do because they just give themselves permission not to do it. Mm-hmm. And then nobody holds them accountable. So I've been coaching one method of teaching for 17 years. And it's a little different when you're coaching as a broker manager, because I want to hold them accountable, but there's only so much I can do with that, right? Because they know they're not paying me, and it's free time. But it's really been interesting over the years watching how well they do if they do apply themselves. And now what I do is I track their income before they start the program and track their income 90 days after they finish the program. And there's always a real high spike, but they always drop down and then don't continue again unless they get back on the train and come back for more training and more coaching. So it's like exercising. It's like anything else. You have to keep repeating the same things every day to stay up with what you do. I used to say this for the kids. I can't want for you more than you want for yourself.
100%.
So you have to show up and get in the game.
Yeah.
So I have a question for the two of you. So say we these agents decide they want to coach. So I was gonna say, what should they ask? What should they be asking in when they're selecting a coach?
This is such it's such a loaded question for me, because I feel like the coaching industry right now is getting inundated with unsuccessful realtors becoming coaches, or like, it's driving me nuts, or they're using coaching as a venue to recruit to teams. And I'm going, wait a second, everybody's a coach. And I feel like for myself, I think there's 3 questions that I think if you're really looking for a coach and you've got money and you're investing in it, I think there's some key things, 3 key things that I personally say look out for, ask those questions. And the first one I always say is, how many billable coaching hours do you have? And that is bar none. I don't care what it is, you need to ask that question. And if a coach can't answer that question and you really have like, it's your last, like, let's say you have $5,000, that's all you have. Ask the question, how many billable coaching hours do you have? That really fleshes out a level of a coach, because you might be interviewing 3 different coaches and they're all the same price. And you might be like, okay, who is going to get me there? And, you have to ask that question, because a coach who has, let's say, it's not that one is better than the other per se, it's the journey. So it's like, if you have a coach and you're like, that coach only has, let's say, 10 billable coaching hours, and then you have another coach with 1,000 and you have another with 20,000. And you're looking and you're going, okay, where do I need to be? You need to make that decision. You're going to have you should get more from that coach who has less billable coaching hours, because they're going to take longer on the calls and things like that to get you there. So it's really about that. You have to flesh out experience. Second thing I would suggest is that, you have to, again, you have to vet the coach. There are many with social media. David said something earlier of unplugging social media. Mm-hmm. The biggest thing I like to say about that is that when I look at social media, the number one thing that I look at, which frustrates me, is how many people believe that you'll see something with somebody on social media going, congratulations to my coaching client, they just did 12 sales in 1 month, whoop, whoop. And like, you'll see that and I'll be like, well, why aren't you tagging the person? Where is this person? Like, wouldn't you tag the individual? If there's no social proof of the individual even existing, you need to not fall for that, because that is happening a lot right now when you're looking and seeking out. Is we're seeing it a lot. Like, oh, I have a coaching client who's got 12 transactions this month, and you're going, okay, well, where are they? And tag them. And, and we'll sometimes bug the person and say, tag the individual. Like, where are they? Like, if you really have the social proof, you should see the actual client, so you can go to that person and say, what's their style? Can you tell me a little bit about it? And I'd say the third thing is that is this the person's full-time position? Is this their full-time gig, or is this something that we're seeing in the industry right now, which is a supplementary income, or they're just grasping at it? It's like, coaching is it is just what we talked about from the beginning. If we are going to say agents need to build skills and levels and things like that, then I have to say, if it's not a full-time gig as a coach, then are they building skills? How are they getting better? If they're not 100% vested in this, it's no different than having a part-time real estate agent. It's no different. And it's like, so why would you want a part-time coach or somebody who's running an entire different business, and they're like, I'm taking 2 or 3 coaching clients on? And it's like, well, wait a second. If you were going to list my house and you said you were working at Red Lobster, and I'm just thinking seafood right now. I don't know why, but anyway, I'm like, I don't know. I'm thinking shrimp. Anyway, so lobster. But if you're working full time at Red Lobster as the manager there, and you're like, but I'm taking 3 real estate coaching clients on the side, it would be like, and I'm going to list your house. Like, I'm full time Red Lobster, and but I sell houses too. Like, there is a crossover where you have to say, what are you actually getting yourself into? It is a serious business, and in this market, the skill level for coaches has to be substantially high, regardless of everything. David invests in himself. I invest in myself. We see each other at the events. We have our own coaches coaching us. You guys are the same thing. And it's like, we take this highly serious, and we're always looking to elevate our skills in the industry. We're not in it for, the riches of the industry. We are in it because we truly are vested in this as business owners, but also we would expect nothing less from the realtors. So I think those are my 3 elements that I kind of say, if you're looking for a coach, be really cautious and make that decision, because the wrong coach can also be a very bad experience for an agent, unfortunately.
Well, listen, we are just about out of time. So before we run out of time, what would you like to say to the people out there?
I'm still thinking Red Lobster. So anyway, what would I like to say about coaching?
Whatever. You get one last thing about coaching.
Okay. Well, I'm going to milk this one. No, I would like to say, I think the thing about coaching in general right now is that the journey, we touched on this a little earlier, the journey is lonely. As an entrepreneur, the journey's lonely. It is tough. There are days where I see some of the best agents in the industry, getting dealt cards that I don't know. They're just like, instead of coaching right now, can you just let me vent? Let me just have that support system. Let me just have that. And I think a lot of us, like Lynn said, give up before we've actually seen, even seen any success or even started. And it's like, so I really think if you're going to get into real estate and you're going to be looking at succeeding, I think the coaching route is such a smart investment. But I also think it's, again, going back to what I said earlier, you have to believe in yourself. You have to give yourself the best damn chance in this world. It's like, it is a tough as nails industry. It is not going to get easier in the next year or 2 years. Those easy years are done. They're done. They're gone, finished. So, but it can be the freedom. Like, the reason we choose real estate is because we want freedom, and you don't have to sacrifice freedom when you have somebody who's showing you how to build a great business, hold yourself accountable, and everything you possibly could want in your life, everything you could want in your life can happen in real estate. It's a beautiful career. It's a beautiful business that you can own, and it truly needs to get back to that excitement of, instead of looking at it and going, oh, everybody's not succeeding. Get a coach. Live it, and like, let your wildest dreams come true, and have that champion in your background. I could never be where I am today without the support of coaches in every aspect of my life, whether it's, anything in my life. Actually, I have multiple. I invest 6 figures a year in coaching myself, and I spend 6 figures a year on coaches for me, and if I didn't have them in my life, I don't know. Like, on those days where I am on my knees crying because I'm going, this was a really hard blow, it is so good to know that I can text my coach, I can pick up a phone, and my coach is like, hey, you know what? Let's talk through this. Let's work through this. And having that alone is something that I never feel like I'm alone. I feel like I can do anything with the support of the coaches in my world, and I think that's probably my favorite thing about the industry. So I want people to love real estate, and I want people to love coaching, and I want them to live their dreams and not feel like it's for the highest producers. It's for everybody, so you can get the freedom you want.
I'll say this, that was so well said, because I was a regional director with B&I Business Networking International, and bringing business owners together to network and do referrals. And that was one of the things we always talked about was, as a business owner, you can't vent to your employees.
Nope.
And so to be able to have a group where people can share and vent, and that, and that's so true. It's like, coaching gives you that person. We know it's going to be confidential. We'll keep that stuff confidential. But you need somebody to share that with. Yeah. It's so 100%. True. That was amazing. Lynn, last words from you.
Well, I heard a lot of great things today, and I hope everybody in the audience did. David said, feed your brain, and I think that's very important. Feed your brain. You can do whatever you want, as long as you put in the time and the effort, and talk to one of these amazing coaches.
I love it.
Yes, and you know what? I'm going to add something in terms of what to ask or what to look for in a coach. And if you haven't noticed already throughout the entire podcast, is that these two are so passionate about what they do. Yes. And so look for that person who is so passionate, that is, that's what I love about these two, is that they're in your corner. They're fighting for you, and they're there to push you to succeed. And it's not about their gain, it's about your gain. Okay? So I want to thank both of them for being on the podcast today. This has been so amazing and so good to have you two here. We are so appreciative. We are going to put their contact information, website information in the details underneath the video on YouTube. So if you want to get their details, make sure you go check us out on YouTube. But we are also available on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Samsung Music, Amazon Music, all your favorite podcast channels. We thank you again for joining us this week on The Business of Real Estate, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.